Good morning, afternoon or evening, and welcome to Faction Overview number 5. Now this one covers the newest faction, who actually aren't that new anymore, but anyway, they're a little bit underplayed due to the lack of knowledge about them, but this video is hopefully going to remedy that. So, until Alpha 24, they'll still be considered the new kids on the block, and they are of course the Kushites. So what is there to say about the Kushites? Well, I'm glad you asked. Why don't we find out? Now, number one, temples are a big deal for them. It's where most of their champions are chained, and they also have unique upgrades for their healers. Number two, they have a wide variety of troop, especially infantry, but just don't have any siege weapons, so it's solely elephants for this guy. Number three, because of the lack of siege weapons, they're very vulnerable to opponents' siege weapons. Now, as we said, they have only elephants, but the other thing is infantry swordsmen, and that's all they can use against rams or catapults. So any faction that can combine rams with long-range units, like the Persians for example, can give these guys a big problem. Number four, they're the only owner of pyramids, which I'm sure pisses off the Ptolemies, they're Egyptians, and these are the only structure in the game that offers a collection bonus that is not resource specific. And finally, number five, they have an amazing team bonus. Your allies will get elephants at 20% off both cost and train time. So Mauryans, Persians and Ptolemies owe you a big thank you if they're your teammates. The units you'll start with are archers and spearmen, but by phase 2 you will have added swordsmen and pikemen to your lineup. You'll get skirmishers via a mercenary building, meaning that they cost metal and reduce food, along with an interesting unique unit, the clubman. Now, we're going to focus on the clubman now, and it's basically an anti-building unit. They're pretty weak hack attack and no pierce attack, but they do have crush attack. So, if you can get a group of these into the enemy's territory, they can be deadly to houses, and they're ideal for capturing barracks as they can damage it substantially, capture it, and then garrison it in a sweet little move. So that's well worth thinking about as a strategy. Now, in terms of cavalry, you're going to start with a skirmisher, and you'll get a lancer in phase 2. You'll also get access to a camel archer via a different mercenary building, but we'll cover that later in the video. And, well, what better time than the present to do just that? So in terms of building, the most interesting ones probably are those that you can obtain your 3 mercenary troops from. You can only build a total of 2 of them though, just like with the Carthaginian embassies. The first is the Blemi camp, which gives you access to camel archers, but I prefer the other building, the Nuba village. This gives access to the clubmen that we've already spoken about, as well as your skirmishers. And these are a handy pair of mercenaries to have, especially if you can get access to the metal that you need to make them. Kushites also have access to 2 temples. The first is completely standard, other than offering access to champion axemen, and we'll discuss that soon enough. But the Grand Temple of Aaron costs 200 more stone, as well as taking 50% longer to build, and you exchange that for having 50% more hit points. It also has the effect of reducing enemy heroes' health by 5%, while giving a plus 10 population bonus rather than the usual plus 5. On top of that, it gives you access to your best infantry champions, so these are well worth building. And finally we come to the pyramids. Now there are 2 of these available, cleverly named Small and Big. Now the small ones give you a 15% bonus for resource gathering, so put these near your civic centre to help speed up your farming, or put them by a large patch of wood or a stone or metal mine to speed up that resource gathering. Now the large pyramid will give you the same 15% bonus described above, as well as increasing your territory by 10%. However, it also gives soldiers within 60 metres a plus 10% attack, so because of the attack bonus, this one is best placed on the front line. As already discussed, the Kushites are pretty poor in the area of siege weapons. Now the only available things are the siege towers, and they're not really a personal favourite of mine, and the other option is elephants. Now that said, siege towers can be very handy at clearing out range units, especially archers or skirmishers, to create space for your elephants to come in after. The other option you have is to fill them with clubmen, and then that will protect these guys in advance before they jump out and clatter some enemy buildings. Now the first champions we'll discuss are archers. These are the same as the Athenian/Mauryan ones. They don't do the most damage, but as they fire every half a second, they can inflict a lot of pain when they're in large numbers. The other champions you'll get from the fortress are Lancer Cavalry, and these are great for raiding and anti-cavalry, but they're not my favourite type of champion by a long way. However, the final 2 are a bit more interesting, and one is completely unique to the Kushites. So these 2 anyway, they're Temple Guards. Now the first is a champion swordsman, which is your best anti-ram unit, excluding the elephant of course, while the second is anti-champion and anti-hero. Now these are axemen and they have the same attack as the swordsmen, but their slightly lighter armour is compensated by a 30% bonus against other champions and heroes. Now this is a very interesting bonus, but I don't think it's very likely that you'll get to use it in most games, so therefore I prefer the extra armour of the swordsman personally. And so we come to heroes, of which there are a choice of 3, and these are as follows. Now first up is Nastasen. He gives a 10% attack bonus to all soldiers, and that's without range limitations, as well as giving a 50% loot for all soldiers within 60 meters. This makes him a good solid option. A slightly less impressive choice for me would be Amarenas, an infantry archer that gives a 20% attack and +2 capture bonus to champions, but only within 60 meters, meaning she needs to be near the front line, despite her being an archer, which means that she'll invariably be further back. And the next option is an elephant hero, Arakamani. He reduces the cost and training times for your champion swordsman, as well as reducing the enemy's healing rate by 50%. This probably means he just about edges the favourite choice for me, but it's still a toss-up between him and Nastasen, if I'm completely honest. With regard to upgrades, the Kushites have 2 unique ones alongside a fairly standard one. Now the standard one is the promotion of mercenaries to advanced rank, which is well worth getting, but it's also available to all factions that have mercenaries, making it a little bit less exciting. But the other 2 are far more interesting. The first of these is Monumental Architecture. This gives 25% more hit points to civic centres, temples, pyramids and wonders, and also reduces their build time by 50%. So if you like to play wonder games, then this will be a massive advantage for you. And the final one that we'll look at is one of the best reasons to play the Kushites. This is Elite Healers, and it promotes your healers to advanced rank. This means they go from healing 5 hit points every 2 seconds to 15, as well as increasing their healing range and their health by 50%. A top class upgrades that makes your healers far and away the best in the game. And so, as we move towards the end of the video, let's first look at the conclusions and some potential strategies you may wish to employ. Now you won't need much stone, but you do need a lot of metal, so you're going to have to be prepared to mine for plenty of this and also look to trade off your excess stone. If you're playing an enemy that has slingers and or catapults, then chances are stone's going to be quite expensive in the marketplace, so use this to your advantage by exchanging for the metal that your troops will crave. Number 2, use the healer's bonuses. This is a critical advantage that you can't afford to waste, as a group of elite healers supporting your infantry can be incredibly helpful in battle, perhaps even the difference between winning and losing a key encounter. Number 3, while siege towers are not the most useful of siege weapons, in the absence of anything else, they can still prove very useful for getting your melee troops right in at the enemy. As stated previously, filling them with clubmen and swordsmen could give you a quick tactic to take on the enemy in their own territory and capture some essential buildings. Number 4, be prepared to move to the edge of your enemy's territory as soon as possible to allow for a large pyramid to be built where its attack bonuses will be most effective. And number 5, with archers being your main range weapon, be prepared to splash out on all the range infantry upgrades. You're going to need your supporting fire to be on the top of their game if you're going to effectively support your array of melee infantry. We once again come to the bitter end. It's been a blast, and I hope you find this useful and it inspires you to look into playing as the Kushites. I think they have potential, with a bit of practice, to be quite a useful civilization. Anyway, that's it for now, and so I'll see you again soon for the next faction overview. Let me know in the comments which ones you'd like to see, and remember to click subscribe and also click the bell so you know when the video is out. Adeus.